Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My guest today, and I'm so excited I got both of them. And by the way, you guys say, Nick does a good job and delivers. Look what I'm doing today. I'm bringing two creators. I mean, not one, and wait another week or, 2 weeks. And then it's disjointed because they're not together. I got them both here. Come on. The creators of Ice Chips, and you remember Ice Chips, right? And by the way, when you guys announced you were grandmothers, I'm like, what you have? Kids start having, kids at 10? Well, that didn't put grandmothers with you guys, but anyway. And it's a fact. I think there's 37 last count to the public. Is that more?
43.
43. Wait, we'll talk about that too, I guess. They appeared on. What's that?
That's mostly her fault.
They appeared on ABC's Shark Tank, season 4, episode 9. Guys, I still don't know why we need the episode in here, but whatever. It's direct. You can go find exactly where it is. Season 4, episode 9. They've been friends forever. We just heard there's 43 grandchildren. They have that Ice Chips. They created the Ice Chips, right? We're just talking about this, not the pressed candy pieces that are, these are naturally sweetened. Right. And I can't say it, but I think it's like, what is it called?
Xylitol.
Thank you. Xylitol. I didn't have that.
I knew where you were going.
Sugar-free. Xylitol is, it's everything's all natural, right, ladies? I mean, I think that's the case. So, and they taste unbelievable. I mean, everybody loves them. So, I'm really excited to welcome Beverly and Charlotte to the show. Welcome, ladies, to What Would You Ask podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, they even said that together right on cue. It's amazing. So tell us, I want to take this in 3 parts. We got a bunch of questions. When we announced you guys are going to be on the show that day, when we get the announcement, we send out surveys to everybody, and we got tons of responses, tons of questions. Broke it down in 3 areas: pre-tank, in the tank, and then what's going on with Ice Chips today. So let's take it from. What was the creation? What inspired you to create Ice Chips? How did that all come about?
Let me jump into that. On that one. Well, on that one, Bev and I already had a natural products company going for hard to heal skin issues for salves and ointments, which we still have today. But because of that, we knew the word xylitol. We knew it was good, but we didn't know that much about it. And I got a hold of a little book and explained it. And I came back and I said, Bev, we've got to get all these kids and grandkids eating products with xylitol. Let's get them some xylitol mints, candy, whatever. So we bought some. Well, tell them what that was like.
Well, the first one we bought, it just wasn't good. They were pressed and coated, and they actually, when you bit through the shell, it was just not good at all. And we said, we got to do better than that. Get kids to eat it.
So we looked at each other and went, do we have to do this too? So we ordered a 10-pound bag of xylitol and got 100 tins and some labels. And I went downstairs to try making some kind of label, and I
started cooking.
In 2 weeks, we sold it a bunch.
Oh, in a week we had it. People were begging for flavors.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. What a story. And what was the story about? Somebody asked you actually in the tank why they were all different pieces and sizes, and you guys tell us the answer to that. It was pretty good.
Because we were breaking them at that time with a stainless steel hammer.
That's right.
So you got what you get, or like the kids say, get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
I love that answer. That was the best answer. So let's jump right into it. That is the product that they brought with them, and we're going to find out exactly what happened and remind you guys of their visit to the tank. Paul from Cleveland wants to know about the audition process, the application process, and how many times did you have to apply, and what was that like for you from application to finally getting out to LA?
We actually were called by Shark Tank, but Charlotte's daughter-in-law had sent in a message to them, and they had looked us up. So I've heard that about 30% of the entrepreneurs are contacted by Shark Tank. So we talked to them on the phone, and they gave us 3 days to have a video to them. And one of our employees happened to be a videographer at his church, so he volunteered to help us, and we got it down there. And probably from the beginning of that first phone call, a week and a half at most, we were invited to come audition.
Wow, that's amazing. I hear from all the interviews that I've done with Shark Tank entrepreneurs that the executive producers, or not necessarily executive producers, but producers from the show spend a lot of time with you guys on the phone, on video, really prepping your presentation, and they're really working to make sure that you guys succeed. They want you guys to win, right?
That's great.
They were awesome, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
they did
cool.
spend a lot of time.
And they're helping you. Are they helping you with what to say, what not to say? Say a little bit about this, that kind of thing?
A little bit. It was more on presentation, I think.
Presentation, clothing, just, smile, be happy. They remind you of the things you would easily forget.
So you arrive in LA, you get there, you're into the studio. Tell us a little bit about that experience. You put in a trailer somewhere, or you go right into the studio? Tell us what happens.
Talk about being scared again. Okay, this is so funny because they have us come into a little trailer to do makeup. And Bev's fine. I thought I was fine until the makeup girl, who's from Seattle up here, starts asking me questions. I can't even answer her. I am so scared. I can't spit out answers. Nothing. And it's like, I'm thinking, Charlotte, you got to get a grip here. And the grip came much later in the day, let me tell you.
The first thing is you meet with a very big group of lawyers, and they go over a lot of rules, questions. So I think that just calmed everybody down. You saw everybody, you didn't know what the product was, but you got to meet everybody, and you began to get a sense that this was a very controlled environment.
Yeah.
And I will say, for two grandmas being down there with everybody in that group, Bev and I looked around and went, whoa, because we were in there with 30-somethings that had it together. They were gorgeous, like right out of GQ magazine. I took pictures of the ladies' stilettos, but at the end of the day, we had the last laugh.
True. I think I honestly think that they would always make sure we got to sit in the front of the bus or shuttle, and I think they thought we had little crocheted dolls or something because they were not holding out a lot of hope for the grannies.
Jeez, they should have known better. So you're now ushered in. They're going to tell you, okay, you guys are on deck, or you're up next, or so there. You get into the studio. You're put in a green room, maybe behind a curtain thing. Tell us about that experience.
Well, that was kind of cool because the floor area that they had us on was partitioned with all these black drapes and dark lighting because of the studio. But we were in the same room and floor where they filmed Wizard of Oz with the Munchkins.
Oh, no kidding. Jeez.
Yeah. And so to me, that's way cool.
Yeah.
But we're in there and it's very scary. And then they come, to me, I'm scared because I'm still scared.
Yeah.
And call our name. And so we wind through over all these cords and between all these curtains, and they stand us up at the big door that opens when Shark Tank starts, that big door.
Yes.
And okay, and they give us the rundown. They say, okay, the guy here is going to start counting down from 8 backwards. And then at 3, this kid over here is going to pull on the pulleys and open the door. And I look at that and I go, yeah, that's just a prop. That's like what we use. And from that moment on, I was totally fine. I was too.
That's good. And don't they tell you to keep walking, like the door will open? Just don't stop? Or something like that. I've heard that a few times too.
And there's 29 cameras on you at all times.
Oh, geez. I don't blame you.
And there is a guy running backwards with a camera in front of you, and you're like, if he stumbles, we're down.
Charlotte, you needed. There's this product called Ice Chips. It would have settled you right down if you had a couple of those.
It killed me, but it didn't.
But don't take the whole tin, because if there's stomach and Damon asked the result of that when we got in there. So, all right, so you walk into the room, and Sarah from New Jersey wants to know, what was it like in that 30 seconds you have to stand on the spot, and no one's saying anything, and I guess you can't talk, and they're doing like pictures of you. Did you guys have to go through that when you first walk into the studio? What was that?
We did. is pretty awkward because they won't really look you in the eyes. So you're desperately trying to catch their eyes or do anything, but you're just standing there and they are looking at notes and looking down, but it goes pretty fast.
Well, I remember you and I both made the pact that we would separately work to stare at each one of them like we're not intimidated, and we did.
This is true.
Yeah, I've had people say that they try to look at everyone and go like kind of right down, just because I think one of them, I think it was Robert, was quoted on saying when people are standing there, he doesn't like the people that don't look at, you don't have to look at everybody, but at least the people looking straight ahead. Some people look at straight at the ground. And he said it concerned him that, just by them not having eye contact. So I think that got around a little bit. Now everybody's staring at the sharks, which is, if I was one of the sharks, I'd be like, all right, I don't want why did you say that, Robert? I don't want these people staring at me. Then they walk in the room. Anyway, so yeah, that must have been a really awkward experience. So let's talk about the presentation, because I think you guys, and I've only watched your episode about 20 times over the last 48 hours. And I can do it for you if you'd like me to start jumping it right now. But anyway, I think you guys really set like the template to do it. And people will say, well, the grandmothers, they took it easy on. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And I've seen people in there that are older than you that they hammered. So that won't fly. It was because you had good numbers, because you had good product. I mean, you walked in there and said, and I'm not going to be exact, but $350,000 last year, and this year we're on pace to do 7, 8. And I think Charlotte said, we're thinking we might even get to $1 million. Like that, and you could see these guys in their seats like, oh my God, we have something real here. And then they go, the costing's got to be well off. And then well, what does it cost? Well, it's a little bit over $1, and then we're wholesaling at this 3 something, and we're retailing it over 5. And they're like, those aren't bad numbers at all. I mean, we're just waiting for something to drop, and all they kept hearing was good news. Did you feel that? Did you get a sense that they were buying into this as you guys went along and answered the questions?
I think so. We had read Barbara's book, Shark Tales, and we knew what she expected. And we knew to look them in the eye. We knew to have your numbers, know everything about your product so that they could not catch you with a number or a question that you didn't have an answer to.
The thing that's interesting is our husbands stayed back home, and it's a good thing they did, because even up to right before we went on the air, Shark Tank kept emailing us all these questions about stuff.
Inventory.
And inventory and numbers. And we were scrambling back, calling our guys going, what about this? What about this? And it's like, man, you had to have a team going in both.
Wow, that's interesting. And so what do they do? Is that numbers that they supply what does that mean? How does that play out to the show?
The biggest one I remember is our guys had to do a complete inventory. We filmed on a Sunday, I believe. They had to do an inventory Saturday. So it's a good thing they were there, and they wanted to know. I think they wanted to make sure we would be able to fulfill the orders that were going to come in the next day. And they did come in. Yeah,
we're going to talk about the Shark Tank effect, they call it, in a second here. But let's talk a little bit more about the presentation. Aaron from Scottsdale, Arizona asks, were there any weak points that you guys were concerned about having, being asked about during the Q&A, like something about
diarrhea, for instance?
Diarrhea might have been one. There you go. The fact that you eat the whole tin and have a little diarrhea.
Well, you have to mention diarrhea. You got to be really prepared.
Yeah, that's a good point. But by the way, folks, if you eat anything, to that, you grab a thing of M&Ms and you eat the entire bag, you're going to have some diarrhea problems probably, right? Your stomach's going, all right, I'm overloaded. So I get that. But that was a great answer, because you say, hey, is there any this xylitol? Who knows what it is? And they were kind of like, maybe this is, break out in a rash. And you're like, no, if you eat the whole tin, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. That's just it. And that was a great answer. And it was epic. But no other issues or things that you were concerned about the business?
Well, I think this is not exactly to answer your question, but when we were on there, what kind of threw Bev and I, and both of us were confident, so we were okay, but we weren't expecting to be hit with so many barrage of questions at the same time, where she didn't know what I was answering and I didn't know what she was answering, and we just had to go with what was being thrown at us because they have their sounds separated so well. When they edit, it looks like everything's orderly, but it wasn't at all.
Charlotte, every single interview, it's so, I've done 3 interviews today, and of all 3 of them, and you're the 4th, have said this exact same thing. I ask a question later on, and I'll ask you guys about, is there any misconceptions from what we see? People, the fans want to know what we see on TV. Is there anything different than what we see on TV? And every single, and we'll get to that question, but everybody has said at some point or another in the interview that you don't see the rapid fire that happens within the tank. And by the way, it's also crosstalk to themselves, right? They're talking to each other, and then they'll talk to you to verify. So is it that way? And then it just goes, and you see this, we see, I should say, this nicely cut up piece that it looks like, oh, Damon's talking, and now, Bev's talking, and then Mark's talking, and Charlotte's talking. No. It's a train wreck in there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Unbelievable. Wow.
And we were out there for 52 minutes that they cut down to 8 minutes.
Jeez.
So that was a long time.
Rich from Cranston, Rhode Island wants to know, did you think during your presentation, good question, Rich, by the way, did you think during your presentation that someone was beginning to champion your product? Did you feel like I felt like Barbara was definitely all for this. And you can always kind of tell, Barbara doesn't hold her cards so close to the vest. When she likes something, she either gets quiet and doesn't say anything because she wants the other guys to, start fighting, or she just falls in love with it. And she seemed right away when she was picking the pieces out saying, oh my God, I love they're all different sizes. You could tell she really enjoyed it. Did you get that sense?
Oh, yes, I could tell. Everybody but Robert did make an offer, and he was polite and kind and interested. But they were interested and questioning enough that we knew they at least liked the product. They liked the taste of it. They liked Charlotte's joke to Mr. Wonderful when she handed him, saying that I had been his babysitter.
Yes, that was so funny. That was excellent, Charlotte. I meant to say that.
I pre-planned that to try to knock him off of his pedestal just a little bit because he can be so intimidating.
Oh, he is.
And I think it helped me. It helped Bev. It helped us, So.
That is so true. I was actually speaking this morning with Cheryl, who created Spatty and Spatty Daddy. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And so Cheryl was on, and she said she was so nervous. She was by herself. So the whole process that she went through, she was there by herself. And she said, when I got to the green room, I was just so nervous. And then the doors, and then standing there for 30 seconds, I was so nervous. She said, as soon as I showed Spatty and Spatty Daddy, and they all started cracking up, she said that broke the ice. Like that was her Charlotte moment right there. When you because they all cracked up. I don't know if you guys saw the episode, but she goes, I did Spatty and Spatty Daddy, and they wouldn't stop laughing. She said it actually went on much longer live than it did on the cut show. So that was a good idea, Charlotte, to kind of break the ice, and the right guy to go after too, because he seems like the quarterback. I mean, Mark Cuban's a big guy too, but there's no doubt that Kevin is the man, right? He's Mr. Wonderful. He sits in the middle. You don't see anybody else sit in the middle. And I know Mark has, I think, a couple times, but that's his seat. Anyway, Chris from Toronto wants to know if you, as you look back on it, was there anything that you would change or do differently?
Different shark?
What?
Different shark.
Ooh. We might have taken Damon's offer instead of the offer we took.
Interesting. Why? Because it was less percentage, wasn't it?
No.
It wasn't?
It was the same amount of money.
No. Him alone, you mean, when it was 25%?
Yeah, before he hooked up with Kevin. It was just a really honest, I love Damon. Yeah. I thought he was sincere and real, and his suit, I never touched cloth that felt like those suits they were wearing feel. I went home and told my husband, we aren't buying the right suits.
Hey, Bev, could I just ask one question? Because none of us saw you touch Damon on the show. I'm just wondering when you...
It's on there, I think.
No, we got to hug everybody.
Is it on there at the end? Because I thought you hugged Barbara and Mark because you went with their deal.
It's not.
Yeah, but we did get to hug everybody.
Well, I think we should probably tell people that before you start talking about this.
Oh, this is true.
How the suit feels, Bev.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Your husband's going to be calling me. I had nothing to do with it. I know nothing. I'm not guilty. So that's interesting. That really is interesting. Is that a reflection on Barbara and Mark being too busy to help you guys out, or tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Damon wanted to take it out of the country.
Yes.
And we
right.
were thinking, oh, there goes all of our little employees that are in our little town here. And so we were trying to protect them.
That's true.
Looking backwards now, we probably should have done that.
Yes. I think it's really, really hard to make your own product day in, day out, year in, year out. And I think he knew that. And he said, you don't need to be in manufacturing. And because we had all these employees that we have known for decades, we decided to protect our people instead of ourselves. And looking back, they would have gotten other jobs. We probably would have been better off to let the manufacturing go.
Got it.
We're still doing it. So
are you really? I'm surprised that Barbara and Mark didn't help you move out of that. But that is Damon's kind of specialty. He was helping people with that. So I get it. Rich from Tom's River, New Jersey asks, what was the most memorable moment for you guys in the whole Shark Tank experience? Was there one memorable when you think about it? Think about what?
I just think when we got the deal.
I do too. Tied to when we got the deal and we walked out and there was a golf cart waiting and they said, you don't walk around here anymore. They took us, after we had a deal, they took us places in the golf cart.
Wow.
Instead of having to walk around.
Tell us a little bit about it. Where did you go?
Well, they took us to the next studio where we did the exit interview.
Yep.
And then back to the green room and then to a different hotel. They make sure that you're not going to talk to everybody and tell them what happened.
Got it. So are you packed when you go to the studio? Like, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
And then that exit interview is interesting because everybody, whether they make deals, whether it goes good or bad, has to talk to a professional shrink to make sure you're okay before they let you out of there.
That's true.
And other rooms were kind of crying that day. We were the only people that got a deal that day, even with all those GQs and 30-something beautifuls.
And you must have been quick with a psychiatrist, right? No, we're happy. We're good. You don't have to.
Yeah, we're good.
Go on to Mr. GQ. I'm fine over here. That's funny. Wow. So how long after, this is a question from Nathan from Billings, Montana. How long after do you hear from Barbara, Mark, their team? Is it weeks, months? Is it?
I was trying to think.
Within the next week,
yeah,
you get a call and then they start setting up. Mark sent people up from Dallas and they came up. 2 of his people came up and toured our facility.
That was 4 weeks after we filmed. Yeah.
And Barbara invited us to New York to one of her conferences. So we stayed in good contact with them.
Got it. Great. And so the people that are coming up, are they talking about next steps as well? Like, we just see how things go. And what was their effect on you over time, over the months after? Was it pretty much business as usual? Nothing changed? Or
they were their finance guys.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of looking to see where our setup was at and what we could do. And,
so they were doing due diligence for actual deals.
Yes,
make sure we're going through. Okay. That's right. Okay. That's you make sure its deal is solid. And did everything go through with that deal or did it fall through?
It fell through.
Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting when you talk, and I don't know how much you could tell us about this or not, but is Mark and Barbara have any part of that? Do you think? I mean, it's pretty much a numbers game. Does it work this way? Does it fit in the box that they want it to fit in as far as moving forward? Or is it just, we didn't think it was going to be this difficult to manufacture, and so we got to bail? What was the reason that they pulled out of this?
Well, we had a couple things where, as we were nearing that point, their people, I will say, started to get a little demanding in how the money was going to be returned and dispersed.
And changed the deal a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like, but that doesn't give us anything to eat on. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they decided to pull out, and we were kind of grateful they did, because I think we would have probably gone ahead and wished we hadn't.
Right. Barbara still wanted the deal, but she wanted the exact same deal, including Mark's share. Anyway, it ended up so much negotiating that we were not signed the night we aired. And then we made more money than they offered us, so that ended it. ABC called and told us, it's a gentleman's agreement. You don't have to finish this deal now. And I think everybody was probably happy that we didn't. We were.
So then now we're just segueing to the Shark Tank effect. The night it aired, you made more money than they offered you?
Yes.
Well, it was over a 6-week period.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
Most of it came through straight away. So it was fast and it was a lot.
We ended up kind of having some of the best analytics for the Google Analytics for how many people were online.
Yep, sure.
And fortunately, our web designer had been referred to us once we made the deal by Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And so he helped us structure a site that wouldn't crash. And in the first 20 minutes of airing, there were 8,200 people on our site at one time.
Oh my God.
We filled 1,400 orders the next 48 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that traffic never stopped from Shark Tank for 30 days.
Exactly.
Wow. And
Yeah.
wasn't the deal 125 and 125 for 40%? Wasn't that their deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was $250,000 for 40%. And you guys, during whatever time frame that Shark Tank effect is, you made that money and more.
350.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
5 months later, when they re-aired it, we made the same amount again, but the demographic of who bought was different.
Very. The first time we bought, individuals purchased. The second time we aired, stores purchased.
Wow. That is.
It was pretty amazing.
That is amazing. My God. And do you still get that bump whenever your show comes on the air or no?
Now that we're on MSNBC, wherever we are, we air. And we've aired like 25 times on there. We get a tiny bump. We know that, we aired again.
You guys are on a lot. Do you realize that? I mean,
I know we are on a lot.
And I think they do that because listen, you just talked about, Charlotte, you were talking about Google Analytics. They obviously have all the analytics of what episodes people are watching, what episodes new people watch, where they know everything. And I was saying this to someone else. It was Cheryl at Spatty Daddy. She's on a lot too. I mean, they have these popular people that people want to see. They want to see your story. They want to see your interactions. They want to hear the comment about diarrhea, and they want to hear you take a jab at Kevin, Charlotte. They want to hear all that stuff, right? Same thing with Cheryl. They want to see these guys crack up. You want to see the other side of the guys too. And Kevin was almost crying with the Spatty thing. It's just funny. So it's interesting because then you talk to other people and I've been on like 3 times in a year. I'm like 3 times in a year. Wow. So it's interesting.
Well, we call Shark Tank the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Because every time before the COVID thing hit, we were doing big shows, big like women's things and big fairs. And every time we'd go up, somebody would say, "Oh, I saw you last night on television," because it re-airs so often and people think it's fresh. And we're always amazed that people still recognize us.
Yep.
So we do say it is the gift that keeps on giving, no matter what happens deal-wise. We're very appreciative.
So before I get into what's going on today with Ice Chips and where everybody can find the product, Sarah from Naples, Florida wants to know, what is the biggest misconception of Shark Tank? Did you find any misconceptions about the show?
I would say that almost everybody thinks the sharks know everything about you before you go out there. People go, "Oh, they really know." I'm like, no, I don't think they do. And they open those notebooks. And the other thing that I'm amazed by is when they ask about sales and people say, "Oh, we haven't actually gone to market yet."
Yeah.
Those notebooks close.
Pre-revenue.
You can watch 5 notebooks.
Yeah.
But they don't believe that it's really new to their ears. And I do believe it is, because we could tell they didn't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Charlotte, I want to go to you to see if you had any misconceptions, but it's interesting, Bev, that you say that, because you guys are in season 4, and really, Shark Tank is definitely a show. And from season 1, it was a show, but the building blocks of noticing things like, don't offer 5% of your business. No, they say every time they don't get up for more than 10, right? So don't do that. And by the way, if this whole pre-revenue stuff, don't come on there with pre-revenue. You have to be established. Even if you did this in season 2 or 3 or even 4, you go, okay, but I see it in 9, 8, 9, 10 people still doing that. It's like, oh, you want 300 for 3%? Is that that's amazing. You're not going
there was a guy like that last week. Last week, I'm like, 2.5% you're going to give?
Have you not watched the show?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Do you watch the show? I have, interestingly, Scott Jordan from Scotty Vest. I don't know if you're him coming on next week. I'm so excited because he's a professional. He's an executive, and he has the background, and they went back and forth. And I really want to dig. I've heard rumors that went over an hour while he was in there. So I really want to get into some of that stuff. But Charlotte, any misconceptions that you have or noticed?
I think people think that when people get off of there, it's smooth sailing with the deals.
Yeah.
And that it's, they're just going to hand you money.
Yeah.
or work with, or that they're going to be calling you and working with you every day and helping. It's not that. It's much more complex. It's much more detailed and messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, messy's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever, after the show, and I'll get right to what's going on with Ice Chips now, but ever talked live to Mark or Barbara after the show?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we could still with Barbara today.
Yeah.
And it's been 8 years. So.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So tell everybody what's going on with the product today. Has it evolved? Are you in new places? Is there new verticals you've been in? Tell us the new flavors and what's going on with Ice Chips.
New tailspins.
Yeah. I would say, obviously, we have to address COVID and the fact that we needed to let our employees all go home for a while. Most of them are back now. Obviously, stores have closed and closed and closed. We're doing much more of a direct to the consumer focus now, and probably will continue to do that.
Yeah.
So the thing changes, but change is the one thing you can count on. It's
Absolutely.
going to change, and just stay on top of your numbers and be willing to be flexible. So I think that helped us in the beginning, and it's definitely helping now.
Awesome.
We had become such a staple to hundreds of dentist offices.
Yeah.
And then they all closed.
Yep.
And then staples in little health food stores. And so many of those have had to give up. And then I don't know why, but Ice Chips is huge in craft stores.
I don't know why, but yeah.
And then they closed. And then, so we have taken a huge hit. Huge. And so the jury is kind of out on how it's working. We can't really tell with all of this.
Yeah.
But we're still here and we're still shipping. The easiest thing we can say is to find us online is the easiest, because shipping's free. If you used to go to your store or your dentist and you can't get it, just go online.
Is it icechips.com or what's the website?
Icechipscandy.com or icechips.com. Yes.
Excellent.
Either one.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, listen, ladies, it has been awesome. I'm so glad we got to visit together. I really appreciate you guys joining the show. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
It was a delight.
Yes, we enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
All right, guys, take care. We'll be back with
Bye.
more What Would You Ask podcasts in a second.